Trash game master Rakuro dives into a popular VR game, Shangri-La Frontier. Can Sunraku's trash-based skills conquer this massive game? Let's find out. A half-naked, masked man named Sunraku finally defeats the Dark Lord, seeing which a girl standing behind him. Faria happily says he's finally done it, admitting this was a really long and hard journey. Sunraku smilingly agrees and jumps into the air, declaring that now she can go with the Dark Lord straight to hell before swiftly kicking her on the face, saying she's the real Dark Lord here, the real menace to this world. As the game ends and the credits start rolling, Sunraku happily takes off his VR headset, declaring that he's finally beaten the game and has gotten his revenge for everything Faria put him through. In an age where display-based games are considered retro and fully immersive, VR games have become the current norm. Beneath the small number of works of significance lives a massive pile of releases whose game designs don't live up to their improved graphics and technology. They are known as trash games. Although most people rightfully despise trash game, there are those who gleefully seek them out. We call these people freaks. Rakuro puts the game Faria Chronicle online, the prayer of the fairy princess, in his shelf and remarks that the rumors were true since this was a giant pile of garbage. This man here, Rakuro Hizutome, is one of those freaks. He happily says he feels free and wonders if this is how a convict finishing up a prison sentence feels, questioning what trash game he should try next as he's known as the trash game hunter. Rakuro heads to school and wearily walks through the corridor. At the end, a girl blushingly tries to come up with what she should say to him, but she misses her chance as Rakuro's friend catches up to him before she can approach him. Later, the owner of a game shop, Mana Iwamaki, sticks a poster to the wall, remarking that summer vacation is coming up, so that should bring in some business. The girl from before, Rai Seiga, enters the store and greets Mana, confirming that she's on her way back from practice. She looks around the store, seeing which Mana says Rakuro isn't here today. Rai hurriedly tries to say that's not what she wanted to see, but Mana says she knows her too well, and reveals that Rakuro has been trying to crack an extra special trash game, so he hasn't come by in a while. She says it's Faria Chronicle Online, a legendary trash game with miserable alley AI, utterly absurd enemy attack patterns, and more bugs in the code than you can shake a stick at. Additionally, she's also heard you need serious skills to beat the first boss, which has caused tons of players to throw their headsets in frustration. She asks Rai if she's been making any progress, but Rakuro enters at that moment, asking if there's something new, so Rai instantly vanishes. Rakuro excitedly tells Mana that Faria was a gigantic pile of garbage, explaining that Faria, the female lead, was the biggest pile of garbage since she's the cause of pretty much every problem you run into on your journey, and then makes the situation worse by getting villagers and party members killed. If you expect her to suffer consequences for any of it, she always finds a way to blame it all on the last boss. He vents about how bad the game was, but reveals that despite its flaws, the game's ending lets players beat the hell out of Faria without fear of reprisal, so the more Faria annoys you, the more determined you become to brave that hell to experience those last 3 minutes of heaven. He says he doesn't know what he should try next because of how remarkably bad Faria was, so Mana suggests that he try something actually good for once and tells him about Shangri-La Frontier, a widely acclaimed VR game with over 30 million players, since it can be fun to try some things meant for mass appeal every now and then. Intrigued, Rakuro researches Shangri-La Frontier and sees that unlike Faria Chronicle Online, the game has been widely acclaimed, and the game is so good that its few haters are drowned out by its thousands of fans. Rakuro decides to give it a try, excited to play a well-designed game for once. During character creation, he chooses the Twin Blade Mercenary class and a Wanderer origin, trading defense for luck. To fund better weapons, he sells his starting gear, leaving himself half naked except for a bird mask. He names his avatar Sunraku and starts the game. Rakuro is impressed by the game's experience, seeing how movement feels realistic. The controls are responsive. There are no bugs, unlike the trash games he's used to. Starting in a random forested area due to his Wanderer class, Sunraku sets off to explore and encounters a goblin. He tests the combat mechanics and easily defeats it, leveling up and acquiring its axe. A while later, he's ambushed by a Vorpal bunny, and although it's stronger than the goblin, Sunraku counters its predictable attacks and learns a new skill, Flash Counter. His appreciation for Shangri-La Frontier grows as he continues his journey. He notes the absence of bugs, recalling the frustrating glitches from his past games. Excited by the smooth gameplay, he experiments with different strategies and collects rare loot, including dual swords obtained from defeating 50 Vorpal bunnies. Despite his low defense, his high luck stat and skillful gameplay allow him to hold his own against tough enemies. Heading away from the starter area, Sunraku encounters bridge guarded by an area boss, a gigantic snake. Sunraku mutters that he has to beat it if he wants to pass, and grins since it looks like he's getting a real challenge at last. He sees that the snake is a party-sized boss, the ravenous python, and believes it won't dish out any silly, buggy attacks till he rushes forward, declaring that he doesn't need any defenses to beat it. At the gates of the town of Firstia, the people watch a figure in massive, high-level armor in a starting town. The player remarks that she's looking for someone named Rakuro, who uses the same character name in every game. However, she's surprised he isn't here, as all beginners pass through Firstia, and Ray takes off her VR headset, believing she must have missed him. Meanwhile, Rakuro begins his fight against the ravenous python. Observing its attack patterns, Rakuro concludes it's a beginner-level boss with predictable moves and no instant kills. Confident he can avoid taking damage, he swiftly dodges, but his weapon shatters on the first strike. Frustrated, he switches to his blood blades and goes on the offensive, but the snake counters with poison that steadily drains his health. Realizing he underestimated the boss, Rakuro decides to depend on critical hits and deduces that critical hits aren't random but triggered by targeting weak points. However, the snake's tough scales make its head the only viable target. The python fiercely defends itself, forcing Rakuro to create a weak spot with a piercing attack. Taking advantage of the opening, Rakuro relentlessly lands critical hits, ignoring the clock ticking down his remaining health. Just as the snake appears to gain the upper hand, Rakuro counters, delivering a final piercing blow that destroys the serpent. He cheerily loots the valuable items, but realizes the poison is still active. Unable to locate a shop or inn to buy an antidote or set his respawn point, Rakuro hurriedly rushes towards the nearby town to avoid getting himself killed. Meanwhile, a player named Yamamoto celebrates convincing his crush, Maya, to join SLF. However, they're suddenly interrupted when they see Rakuro rushing towards them. Maya thinks he's a monster, but Yamato quickly realizes he's a poisoned player and directs him to the inn, revealing that he will have to register a respawn point by sleeping there, so Rakuro hurriedly thanks him and heads into the tower. Rakuro collapses into a bed just in time to register but dies from the poison before curing it. Disappointed yet relieved he didn't lose his items, Rakuro logs off and decides to thank the person who helped him late, surprised by how great Shangri-La Frontier is. Arriving in the town of Secondia, he sets out to find necessities like a map, recovery items, and a powerful main weapon to climb the top player ranks. However, Nee notices everyone staring at his half-naked body and decides to buy some cheap clothes to avoid feeling awkward. He decides to keep his bird mask, though, and heads to the weapon shop. Rakuro dislikes the available options until the shopkeeper notes his bunny daggers are rare. The shopkeeper also offers to craft new weapons if Rakuro gathers the necessary materials. Excited, Rakuro heads to a mining area to collect ore. After 30 frustrating minutes of mining mostly useless stones, he has only 2 of the 6 needed pieces, and a frog suddenly appears in the mud. But Rakuro quickly decides to turn it into materials. Knowing frogs resist slashing attacks, he uses his axe to smack it, though the mud slows his movements. Noticing more players joining the game during summer break, he decides to collect materials faster than everyone else. When he returns to the shop with the ore, the blacksmith crafts 2 god-tier weapons and explains the importance of raising weapons, which essentially means upgrading them. Rakuro is impressed by how lifelike the NPC's behavior and speech are. Despite warnings about nocturnal dangers, Rakuro plans to test his new weapons and gain levels by fighting these creatures. Meanwhile, the snake Rakuro defeated earlier is revived only to be obliterated by Rai, who continues searching for Rakuro. She believes he must have already moved to Secondia after defeating the snake solo. Confident in his abilities, she sets out to find him while Rakuro battles powerful nocturnal goblins, noting their advanced tactics, high HP, and feints. A tough goblin summons reinforcements, forcing Rakuro to consider escaping. However, he takes on the challenge and defeats the goblins, surprised at how much fun he's having. However, a unique monster, Lekagon the Night Slayer, suddenly appears and menacingly growls at Sunraku. Rei, still in game and searching for Rakuro, asks Yamamoto, who mentions spotting Sunraku earlier. Maya asks if they should attack Rei, believing everything is a monster, but he stops her, reminding her not to harm other players. Yamamoto reveals that Sunraku headed to Secondale after being poisoned by the python, recognizing him by his distinctive bird head and the fact that he wasn't wearing anything. However, he notes Rakuro might have changed his gear by now. Rei is shocked that Rakuro defeated the python without stopping at the starting town, leaving them with a coordinate teleporter. She takes off, and Yamamoto realizes from the emblem on Rei's cape that she belongs to a clan focused on unique monsters, like the Lekagon. Unique monsters are rare, individually named beasts that don't respawn like regular enemies. Rumors suggest there are 7 unique monsters in SLF, but their spawn conditions remain largely unknown. Many top players form clans to hunt these beasts, known for their unmatched strength. Despite a player base over 30 million, no one has defeated even one unique monster in the years since the game's release. Meanwhile, Rakuro faces against Lekagon, the Night Slayer that effortlessly kills the tough goblins Rakuro was battling earlier. Staring at the ferocious creature, Rakuro realizes that a single attack from it could end him. Lekagon doesn't hesitate, launching an attack, and Rakuro narrowly survives with a perfect parry. Though shaken, he taunts the beast, even though he's close to death. He remarks that his grinding paid off since he would have died without a perfect parry. Switching to his vorpal choppers from the rabbit, Rakuro lands a critical hit using a movement skill. However, the monster isn't affected and continues attacking. It vanishes and reappears, attacking from behind, but Rakuro's timing saves him again. Rakuro slowly starts laughing and declares he's having the time of his life. Though he's landed hundreds of critical strikes over 5 minutes, the beast's tough hide barely shows damage. With his weapons falling apart, Rakuro knows he's outmatched, but is happy with the challenge. He lands several more critical strikes, surprised at how thrilling the fight is. As a gamer that's endured countless buggy and poorly balanced games, he says he's determined not to quit now. Unlike those games, this beast's hitbox isn't bugged, so giving up isn't an option. However, another powerful attack barely hits the monster. The beast roars, paralyzing Rakuro, then vanishes as the moon disappears behind the clouds again. Rakuro suddenly realizes that his legs are gone, and as he's lying on the ground in defeat, he realizes he's going to get killed but suddenly sees that he's got 1 HP left. Rakuro acknowledges the beast's strength, knowing it was intentionally designed to be this powerful, which means it can be defeated. He vows to one day defeat the Night Slayer, telling it to not die until then. The monster finishes him off, leaving him cursed with Lekagon's mark. Back in Secondale, Rakuro frustratingly learns the curse prevents equipping gear on marked body parts. Unfortunately, the mark covers most of his torso and legs, leaving him with limited armor options. Frustrated, he vents about how unfair the curse is, recalling the broken mechanics of trash games. Despite his complaints, he notices the fight earned him a lot of experience, leveling him up and granting more stat points. He allocates them to enhance his glass cannon build, knowing vitality boosts won't help much with his curse. To his surprise, his high luck stat might have saved him during the battle. Just as he hopes his luck will continue, a well-dressed bunny drops onto his head and darts away. Surprised, Rakuro quickly goes after it, thinking it will lead to a rare item. Instead, it vanishes through a door, marked with an invitation to a unique scenario. Laughing at his early luck, Rakuro enters, despite the level requirement being far beyond his. Inside, he finds a world filled with bunnies. Emil, the rabbit who lured him in, praises Rakuro for his courage and skill against the Night Slayer, calling him a hero with the Vorpal soul. Rakuro, skeptical but intrigued, goes with Emil and meets their leader, Visach, a powerful rabbit who acknowledges Rakuro's strength. At the gain shop, Mata catches Rai looking for her crush, Rakuro. Rai tries to deny it, but the shop owner quickly points out that it's summer vacation and Rakuro is likely off exploring Shangri-La Frontier. Rai admits she hasn't been able to track him down in-game since he skipped the tutorial city, which Mana finds typical of Rakuro. She explains that he loves doing things other players wouldn't, which often leads him to outrageous, unique scenarios. Mana then encourages Rai to confess her feelings to Rakuro. Meanwhile, Rakuro is reading about the trigger conditions for the tour of Rabbituza's unique scenario. He learns that defeating a monster of a higher level than yourself with Vorpal weapons equipped will summon a special Vorpal bunny to invite you to Rabbituza. Once there, if you defeat the python terrorizing the town, you'll unlock the ancient Vorpal spell. However, Rakuro reflects that his unique scenario didn't go as expected. There were no pythons, but rather a mob boss-looking bunny named Visach. Visach compliments Rakuro on his battle against the Lekagon, calling him the embodiment of the Vorpal soul. Despite the praise, Rakuro is still unsure what this Vorpal soul is, so Visach offers him training, which Rakuro realizes could be a valuable opportunity for growth. He hesitantly accepts but nearly offends Visach. Luckily, Visach laughs it off and asks Rakuro to call him Vash, a privilege for those with potential. Vash assigns Emil to guide Rakuro through his training. Emil enthusiastically offers to take Rakuro on a tour of the palace. But Rakuro needs a break after his long session. He remarks that he also wants to research more about unique scenarios and monsters. Emil registers Rakuro's respawn point, and Vash adds a Vorpal soul collar to his inventory, which grants 2.5 times the stat points when leveling but halves the experience. Although confused, Rakuro accepts the challenge. Back in the present, he acknowledges the perks of the Vorpal soul collar, though it's a restriction he didn't want. Later, Rakuro has an appointment with his friend, Katsuo, for a match in Berserk Online Passion, a niche fighting game. Despite its bugs, the game has a loyal player base of trash game enthusiasts. Katsuo shows off a new move, the NSFW Tentacle Attack. Rakuro counters with his lightning-fast reaction speed. The fight intensifies with both players unleashing ridiculous moves. In the end, Katsuo's attack wins, but Rakuro remarks that it feels good to fight a trash gamer since he's only been fighting NPCs lately. He tells Katsuo about Setsuv, mentioning the game's unique monsters that no one has defeated. Katsuo, intrigued, considers trying SLF and sends a message to someone, revealing that Sunraku has started SLF. Meanwhile, a purple-haired girl says she's surprised the trash game addict. Sunraku is playing SLF. After defeating all her opponents, the girl proudly shows off her player kill badge and is happy that Rakuro is playing SLF, deciding to guide him through the game. Meanwhile, Rakuro returns to Secondale, appreciating Emil's teleporting abilities. He wonders if his smooth movement in SLF is due to his experience with BERP. Emil asks why he's leaving so soon, as there's much to explore in Rabbituza. Rakuro explains he wants to reach Third Rima before the crowds arrive, as player numbers have surged with summer break. The forums report that Firstia is crowded with new players, and other towns like Secondale will follow. He hopes to get to Third Rima for more space and fewer monster fights. Emil agrees, though she's confused by his reasoning. Rakuro learns that he can add NPCs to his party, with Emil explaining that he can't reach Rabbituza without her. Surprised, Rakuro accepts Emil's offer and finds she has better stats than him. However, he's confident he'll surpass her soon. Rakuro suspects the Likagon's mark might trigger a unique scenario and wonders if Emil is part of it. As they prepare to leave, two girls stop to admire Emil and ask if they can get a bunny pet like him. They're shocked when they see Rakuro, a half-naked bird pervert hearing which Rakuro realizes Emil is part of a unique scenario he wants to keep secret for now. He distracts the girls, claiming it was a puppet, but the girls take a picture and plan to ask the forums about the talking bunny. Rakuro and Emil eventually escape the crowds, and Rakuro tests his curse that makes lower-level monsters flee. When a monster runs away, Rakuro chases it, using his weapon and speed to corner it. He's impressed by the game's realistic physics, especially the inertia mechanic. Later, he decides to skip weak monsters and head straight to the area boss. However, when they reach the boss area, it's just a swamp. Emil explains that the boss, Mud Digger, appears from the ground, that they must find a way to hold it in place. As they search, a giant monster suddenly rises from the swamp, and Rakuro alarmingly says this is the worst matchup possible. Rakuro sees that the beast can dive into the shallow swamp scene, which Emil starts panicking, fearing they'll be killed, but Rakuro narrowly avoids death with a slide move. He realizes that his evolved skills, like the repel counter, are important to surviving. This move allows him to instantly counter after a perfect parry. While Emil is impressed, Rakuro feels he's just evading damage, as both skills have a 10-second recast time. The beast continues its relentless assault, but Emil's magic gives them a break. Rakuro remembers he's not alone and decides to use a power-boosting ability. However, moving quickly in the swamp doesn't work. As the beast recovers, Rakuro takes the chance to use his spiral edge attack. With a series of moves, they position themselves for a counterattack, using Rakuro's platforming skills from his trash games. Rakuro sets up Emil for a powerful strike, but as the beast tries to attack, Rakuro avoids it with his repel counter. Emil follows up with her magic, but Rakuro takes fall damage, remembering how weak his defense is. He praises Emil, though she stresses about her dress. The beast seems to be gone, but then the ground shakes, and they realize it's preparing for a new attack. Rakuro saves Emil as the creature launches him into the air, but he survives the attack, which wasn't as damaging as expected. The Mud Digger's special moves activate when its HP is low, and it randomly rams players into the air, causing fall damage, which makes it a solo killer. Rakuro prepares to die from fall damage, but Emil, refusing to give up, uses a magic scroll to teleport him. The teleportation, however, sends Rakuro higher into the air, giving him more downward speed. This transforms into an attack, and he crashes into the beast, defeating it. Amazed, Rakuro thanks Emil for her help and is surprised at how strong she is, feeling guilty for underestimating her. Afterward, Emil worries about being noticed in Rabbituza, so she uses a special Vorpal bracelet to conceal herself. She asks Rakuro to keep her transformation a secret, and, to his surprise, turns into a human. He's shocked and frustrated, realizing the game is starting to feel like a harem game with a bunny girl. She explains that the transformation is tiring for her, so she can only hold it for a few minutes at a time. It works to hide her, but it may draw unwanted attention when people see a half-naked birdman with a girl. They arrive at Third Rima, and Emil notices Rakuro's expression. He boasts about being well-traveled, but the guards stop them, curious about his half-naked state and the scars on his body. Emil defends Rakuro, dramatically making up a story about his tragic past and curse. She claims that in the next chapter of his journey, he'll become a super warrior. The guards, overwhelmed by her intensity, let them in. As they enter, Rakuro notices someone watching him with a different expression than the usual stares. Before they can go further, a frantic girl approaches him, recognizing him. She's part of a group that posted a picture of them from Secondale, asking if anyone knew how to befriend the talking bunny. The post spread quickly, with some people amazed at the sight of a talking monster and the half-naked birdman. The silver-haired girl, in particular, is shocked, believing the birdman must be cheating. People start speculating that the scars on Rakuro's body mean he's been acknowledged by the Night Emperor and has fought Lekagon. Some players are interested and wonder how Rakuro, known as Sunraku, managed to meet it. A player named Ursula, leader of an infamous clan, even threatens to kill Sunraku for answers. Meanwhile, other players begin to show interest in Rakuro, offering protection and support. Before the situation escalates, the silver-haired girl interrupts, eager to know how to tame a Vorpal bunny. As Rakuro starts to piece it together, they're attacked by a surprise assailant, and Rakuro shockingly sees that it's Arthur Pencilgun, a level 99 player killer, who reveals her identity after removing her mask. Rakuro reveals that Pencilgun is his friend in Trash Gaming, and a flashback reveals their past in a game called Unite Rounds. In the game, some players attempt to rob a shop, thinking they were safe, but Rakuro tracks them down and robs the robbers. The game, jokingly called a post-apocalyptic looting simulator, was meant to simulate a kingdom on the brink of collapse, where players, acting as knights, protected it from monsters in a co-op MMO VR setting. However, terrible game design, including absurdly low drop rates, made it nearly impossible to succeed without stealing from other players or NPC stores. As a result, players began to loot instead of completing quests, and this behavior became normal in Unite Rounds. One day, as Rakuro was looting corpses, Katsuo reminded him that the game was supposed to be about defending the kingdom from monsters, but Rakuro argued that the real goal had shifted to defeating the Pencil Knight. This player abused those she didn't allow into her ranks, encouraging them to fight back. By the time Rakuro and Katsuo decided to assassinate her, the game had fallen under her control, and they found themselves confronting her directly. Though this was their first meeting, the Empress acknowledged their efforts, impressed by how easily they broke her traps. Back in the present, Rakuro reflects on their past encounter, where they fought each other to a draw. However, now there's a significant level gap between them. Pencilgun, now second in command of the Ashura Kai clan and known as the Giant Killer, immediately begins a fight with him. She taunts him, and though she compliments his dodging skills, Rakuro credits the game for making his moves smoother. As they continue fighting, Rakuro realizes Pencilgun is trying to keep him away from the city gates, revealing that player killers struggle in populated areas. She then delivers a message from her clan leader, warning him to make the unique scenario public or remain a target. Despite the threat, Rakuro resists, determined not to be intimidated. As Enmel's bunny tail reappears, she realizes she can no longer hold it in, and is about to transform back into a Vorpal bunny. However, she can't warn Rakuro without risking someone discovering her secret. Meanwhile, the silver-haired girl asks Rakuro's companion how to get a Vorpal bunny pet. She's shocked to see Emil wearing bunny accessories, but even more surprised when Emil transforms into the bunny she's been searching for. Rakuro quickly realizes this is the worst possible time for this to happen. Pencilgun refuses to be ignored, but she's stunned when Rakuro uses his repel counter move, knocking her back with a burst of anger. He calls Emil to his side and quickly catches her. The girl wants to take a selfie with the bunny, but Rakuro tells her he'll think about it if he survives his plan. As he charges toward the gate, Pencilgun is certain he has no chance of beating her in a foot race. However, the girl stops her, declaring she doesn't care about Rakuro, but if Pencilgun endangers the bunny, she'll kill her without hesitation. Rakuro is thrilled since he knew that the girl Animalia, obsessed with Emil, would try to protect her. Rakuro praises Emil for being a great partner, as she's about to create a teleport gate to Rabbituza, where they'll be safe from anyone tracking them. However, Pencilgun reveals that she didn't come alone. A group of tough players from her clan appears, reluctant to kill a lower-level player but fearful of Pencilgun. Rakuro is distracted by the group while Animalia proves she's not just a crazy animal lover by unleashing a powerful spell. Unfortunately, Pencilgun reflects the attack and fires it back at Animalia. Impressed by the debuffs Animalia has inflicted, Pencilgun crushes the Karmic Straw Doll, an item that sends curses back at their caster, ensuring Animalia's own poison will kill her. Rakuro gets ready to face them, but then a giant armored knight, Rai, arrives, defeating one of Pencilgun's attackers with a single blow. The attackers realize this is the famous attack master. Rakuro has no idea who this is. After much effort, Rai finally found him through her guild's message, which warned of the dangers surrounding him. She sees saving him from the player killers as her chance to talk to him. Pencilgun, realizing how intense the fight has become, knows that Rakuro's skills from playing difficult games are more valuable than high-level stats. She's also heard that Katsuo is playing SLF, making her secret project more likely. Animelia, undeterred, points out that the karmic doll only reflects 5 debuffs, questioning if Pencilbin has a counter for her next attack. Ri has been following Rakuro for a while, and it all started when she saw him smiling and enjoying himself. Intrigued, she tried to approach him, but was too shy to talk to him. Now she says she won't miss her chance to help him. Rakuro is immediately suspicious of the giant knight, thinking she's after the unique scenario like everyone else. He plans his escape, noticing Animalia preparing a deadly final attack. Her spell, a murder-suicide curse, will destroy both her and her opponent, and with no way to debuff it, Pencilbin and Animalia are eliminated in a massive eruption of light. Rakuro quickly tells Emil to prepare a gate while using the knight's head as a launch pad. The enemy group tries to stop him, but Rai knocks them back. Though Rakuro doesn't trust Rai, he promises to remember her name, Psyker Zero. The Azura Kai members see an opportunity to attack Rai, but she's furious at them for ruining her chances with Rakuro. As they try to escape, Rai keeps them in place to unleash her anger. Meanwhile, Rakuro and Emil finally make it back to the Rabatuza Inn. Emil is out of magic, but is saved by Rakuro's prepared potions. Rakuro receives an email from Pencilbin, frustrated that Rai appeared out of nowhere to save him. Pencilbin still wants to meet and suggests the chat in Unite rounds. Skeptical, Rakuro agrees, and Katsuo shares his doubts as well. They decide to meet, but Rakuro is more focused on progressing with the unique scenario. Emil takes him to the Vorpal Coliseum for training, where he faces his first challenge, a pack of level 65 hounds. After several failed attempts, Rakuro realizes this won't be easy, but he's determined to continue. Rakuro faces a tough challenge with a pack of high-level beasts that attack in perfect synchronization. He realizes the monsters are being controlled by a commander who stays at a distance and issues orders. After noticing this pattern, Rakuro targets the leader with his spiral edge attack, causing the commander to flee and disrupting the others' coordination. With the leader gone, the remaining monsters are disorganized, and Rakuro easily defeats them. His first training level is complete, and Emil congratulates him. Rakuro hopes his next challenge will be easier, but he's shocked when he faces a creature called the Parasite Tentacle. This strange monster, looking like a teddy bear with snakes on its back, makes him think it's a group fight. Using a hit-and-run strategy, Rakuro cuts off the tentacles and defeats the creature in 4 attempts. His third opponent, a tough goblin, is defeated in 2 tries, while the wild boar proves easy with his skills, defeating it on his first try. His fifth opponent, a bird with acid attacks, takes him 112 tries to defeat. His ninth opponent, a mega golem, has an energy shield that damages him, but after 7 tries, Rakuro defeats it. However, after all this, he's only gained 2 levels due to the Vorpal Soul Collar, which cuts experience gains in half. Emil suggests he take a break, but Rakuro insists he's fine. Vash arrives to introduce Rakuro's final opponent, a powerful tree mage. Vash frees the creature, and Rakuro doesn't know it's an insanely strong level 120. To win, Rakuro must survive for 5 minutes, but he quickly dodges the monster's root attacks. Rakuro does his best to dodge the roots, but they're relentless. Despite only needing to survive, he pushes forward, trying to close the gap with the tree monster. However, his attacks have no effect on the beast. Realizing physical attacks won't work, he focuses on dodging its chains as well. Emil informs him that 1 minute has passed, leaving him with 4 more. Vash eagerly watches as Rakuro struggles to dodge the increasingly dangerous attacks, including root spears and chains that seem to track him like magnets. On top of that, the monster mixes in magic attacks, fireballs, electricity, and ice. The longer the fight drags on, the denser and more frequent the attacks become. Rakuro, now overwhelmed by the constant barrage of roots, chains, and magic, begins to lose hope. He feels exhausted and frustrated, wondering if he could do better against the Lekagon. Ready to give up and return home, he reminds himself that quitting isn't an option. He recalls a similar moment when he gave up against the mud digger and had to rely on Emil. Rakuro determinedly yells a battle cry and pushes forward. Emil and Vash sense a shift in his attitude. Rakuro runs towards the tree and, despite Vash's doubts, manages to kick the monster's staff out of its hand. He realizes that while the monster nullifies physical damage, the attack itself still lands. Rakuro grabs the staff, and though the tree goes berserk, he presses on, now fully prepared to survive. With just 1 minute left, Rakuro refuses to back down and knows he can't keep dodging much longer as the tree wizard closes in on him. In a desperate move, he sends the staff flying into the sky, causing the tree to chase after it. When the tree retrieves it, Rakuro mocks the creature for fetching the staff instead of just continuing to attack. He calls it a woodblock head, but is shocked when the tree decides to keep fighting. He runs for his life, pointing out that the fight should be over. Fortunately, Vash steps in, declaring the 5 minutes are up and deletes the tree from the game. Rakuro wins and Vash praises his Vorpal soul. Rakuro is stunned by Vash's power and wonders how he managed to land a physical attack on the tree. Vash explains that the tree only nullifies physical attacks when it has its staff, and without it, it's just an animated tree. Emil arrives to celebrate, and Rakuro is excited to hear he'll be getting his reward for completing the quest. Vash announces him as an honorary Rabbituza citizen, but Rakuro was expecting a rare item. Vash removes the Vorpal collar around Rakuro's neck, completing the unique scenario, and the rabbits leave. Surprisingly, there's a bonus scenario, Vorpal Epic, but Rakuro is frustrated. He didn't get any real loot and logs out to sleep. The next day, he reads that the bonus scenario requires level 80, but he's only level 31. Deciding to take a break from unique scenarios, he plans to explore the town. Emil suggests they visit Pete's, Emil's little brother, to get some new gear. Pete's sells them a ghost-like costume, which Rakuro hates. After discussing their next destination, they choose the prismatic forest, avoiding the ruins. As they move on, Emil notices an armored knight watching them, and Rakuro is surprised to see who it is. Orcelot, the leader of the Ashura Kai clan, is angry and disappointed with his clan for failing him. The clan members apologize and explain that their failure was due to the appearance of the attack master, but Orcelot says he doesn't want to hear excuses. He stresses that the secret of a unique scenario is on the line and they should have expected top players to show up. Pensilgan boldly tells Orcelot he should have handled things himself. Orcelot admits he was busy but insists the rabbit they're after is key to unlocking important secrets. Another member demands they get the information from Rakuro by any means necessary. While Pensilgan suggests going after unique monsters instead, Orcelot points out these monsters are too difficult to defeat, and currently, they are the only ones who know the spawn condition for a unique monster, and encountering it could make them significantly stronger. They agree not to pursue the monster, but Pensilgan remarks that she knew this was useless and leaves. Orcelot tries to stop her from leaving, but she says she has more important things to do. A lot of players hate the Ashura Kai clan, and they thrive on that hate, but with the last patch making player killing riskier, they've adapted. Pensilgan is frustrated that she's putting herself at risk for one NPC, but is willing to gamble everything to take down the unique monster, Weatherman the Tomb Guard. Meanwhile, Rakuro worries that Siger Zero is after revenge for their previous encounter. Siger Zero approaches and Rakuro, panicked, tells Emil it's time to run. Nearby, members of the Ashura Kai are searching for Rakuro. Disguised in a bedsheet, he runs by them, but they spot his in-game name, Sunraku, and go after him. Rakuro plans to head to the prismatic forest grotto, but fakes the direction to mislead them, intending to lose them in an alley. His plan works, and the Ashura Kai members wait at the exit for the Iron Ruins. Rakuro and Emil reach their actual destination, but they are surprised when Siger Zero appears behind them. Rakuro fears the worst, but is relieved when Siger Zero sends him a friend request. She speaks so softly that he can't understand her, making him question if she's trying to get him to drop his guard. Rakuro suspects that Siger Zero might be plotting something, having seen through his disguise and determined his true destination. However, Confident in his gaming experience, Rakuro accepts the friend request, thinking he can handle whatever comes next. Saiger Zero, overjoyed, offers to help him through the game, but Rakuro declines, suspecting she's trying to manipulate him for information. She apologizes and wishes him luck, and Rakuro thanks her for letting him use her head as a step stool earlier. As they part ways, Rakuro wonders why she backed off so easily, and Emil comments on Saiger Zero's strength, though Rakuro still doesn't understand the importance of his Vorpal soul. Rai watches Rakuro leave and realizes the girl he was with is just an NPC, but doesn't mind because she's happy that Rakuro accepted her friend request. The Ashura Kai members, realizing they've been tricked, head toward the forest, but see the terrifying attack master standing there and choose to retreat. In the forest, Rakuro and Emil can finally relax, and Emil turns back into a bunny while Rakuro returns to his bird form. The tunnel is lit by glowing moss, and Rakuro thinks about past experiences in tunnels in other games, like guns aimed at him and shooting stars, but the beauty of this forest tops everything. The forest is filled with unique creatures, including empire work bees and bugs that serve as storage. Rakuro gets excited as he watches bugs fight each other. He decides to take down one of the storage bugs in hopes of finding a valuable item. Though he fails at first, he realizes he can collect the bug as long as he avoids damaging its stomach. Emil is thrilled, and they continue hunting for item drops. Rakuro, having recently bought a throwing knife, decides to use it. Since melee combat is his only option, he uses the knife to attack a flower, which turns out to be a camouflaged mantis. He demands loot from it and defeats it, explaining to Emil that mantises are easy to beat without their camouflage. After checking his inventory and seeing plenty of loot, Rakuro notices a giant beetle nearby. The beetle is drinking sap on the bee's territory, and the bees attack it. Seeing them fight, Rakuro notes that the beetle is tough. However, the beetle suddenly targets the queen bee and defeats her, causing the rest of the bees to scatter. The beetle then turns its attention to Rakuro and Emil, who run for their lives. Rakuro comes up with a plan to distract the beetle, using a stomach sack to redirect its attention. With the beetle distracted, Rakuro takes advantage of its weak points and delivers critical strikes, eventually defeating it. With his inventory full, Rakuro decides to stop collecting loot. Emil disapproves of exploiting the bees, but Rakuro explains it's a survival of the fittest world. As they approach a cave, a gigantic spider menacingly waits for them inside. Rakuro and Emil see that a group of adventurers are attempting to take on the area boss. The girls in the group are worried that their leader wants to face the boss too soon, but he insists they'll succeed. However, their leader quickly becomes trapped in a spider web, and the clown spider slowly approaches him. In the present, Rakuro approaches the cave where the boss is, but he's stopped by other players currently battling the boss. A pink-haired player falls from the cave. Disappointed he'll have to climb again. However, he's quickly flattened. Rakuro offers a prayer for the fallen player, but is focused on his own battle. Emil is shocked by his composure, and Rakuro reassures her that fallen players respawn in Third Rima. Rakuro and Emil head into the cave, discovering the bodies of players who came before them. Confident, Rakuro tells Emil to stay back, as he plans to defeat the clown spider without taking any damage. Despite Emil's doubts, he calls out the area boss. As Rakuro climbs higher, the webs become more dangerous, but his new skills from leveling up in the arena help him dodge a falling boulder using his skill One Boat Leap. Emil warns him of the webs, but Rakuro reveals that the horizontal webs aren't sticky. More rocks fall, but Rakuro continues to climb, helped by his acceleration skill, leaving Emil to dodge the falling debris. Upon reaching the clown spider, Rakuro dodges its weak attacks and uses a new skill, Loop Slash, to chop off one of its legs. However, he realizes this won't be enough to win, so he uses Rush Slash to deal massive damage. The spider loses its balance and falls, but Rakuro knows it's not defeated yet. The spider attempts to shoot webs to catch itself, but Rakuro quickly shuts it down with a throwing knife. The spider crashes to the ground, but Rakuro notices the ceiling above has heavy objects. The clown spider recovers and prepares for another round, but Rakuro begins dropping boulders and trees to crush it. Emil is excited, thinking he will defeat the boss unscathed. Just as the spider tries to rise, Rakuro decides he needs to defeat the boss head-on to prove himself worthy of taking on tougher challenges like the Lekagon. He jumps on the spider, landing a critical blow that causes it to explode. Emil celebrates since Rakuro managed to defeat it without dying or taking damage. A while later, Rakuro receives a message from Pensilden, and a blonde player named Katso also receives the same message. Katso is unimpressed, having easily defeated a boss herself, but looks forward to a real challenge. At the game shop, Rai excitedly informs Mana that she no longer needs to follow Rakuro, since they are now friends. She happily tells her about how Rakuro has skipped past the first town and even brought along a Vorpal bunny. Rai becomes excited when she thinks Rakuro has entered the shop, but it turns out to be a random player. Mana believes Rakuro has been playing SLF and that he may be the first to defeat a unique monster. Eventually, Rai spots Rakuro in another store and begins following him. In a magazine, Rakuro reads an interview with Katso, who is a professional gamer and known for his trash talk. The magazine also mentions a major summer update for SLF. Meanwhile, Rakuro recalls his recent meeting with Pensilden, where they had discussed a plan to defeat the unique monster, Weatherman the Tomb Guard. In the game, Pensilden gets straight to business, asking Rakuro and Katso to team up and defeat Weatherman, a powerful and dangerous unique monster. Both are shocked but intrigued, especially Katso, who loves unique monsters. Rakuro, unsure about the plan, points out that it's just the three of them. Pensilden explains that Weatherman is a monster that becomes stronger with more opponents, and even her best team failed to defeat it. She insists they must join her, but doesn't reveal anything else until they agree. She plans to attack in 2 weeks, right after the summer event, and Rakuro wonders why Pensilden chose them, players with low levels when she could have picked higher-level players. Pensilden explains that what she needs is raw gaming talent, which is why she chose Katso and Rakuro for their exceptional skills. Rakuro is skeptical, but agrees to consider the offer, asking Pensilden to reveal her secret so she finally complies. Later, Rakuro leaves the shop, where Ri calls out to him from her hiding spot. She recognizes him as a classmate from a year ago, and Rakuro barely remembers her name. Rai awkwardly mentions that it's a coincidence they meet here. She tells him she's also playing SLF and hopes to play together. However, Rakuro is distracted by an urgent message from Pensilden and hastily leaves. Rai is just happy to have spoken to him and hopes to meet him again in the game. At home, Rakuro wonders if he should have asked for Rai's in-game name before logging into SLF. In the game, Emil greets him, and Rakuro reveals he'll be fighting Weatherman in 2 weeks. He plans to remove Emil from the party for this mission, which shocks her. She rushes off to tell Vash about it, confusing Rakuro, who says he has no time to investigate as he prepares to meet with Pensilden again. He asks about bringing Emil, but Pensilden tells Rakuro he should keep Emil out of it if he cares about her, since on an NPC dies in an SLF, they never come back. Sunraku is summoned by Vash, who wants to hear his plans firsthand. He inquires if Sunraku really intends to challenge the notorious Death Defier, and Sunraku decides to roleplay through the scenario, hoping to get some valuable information about the enemy. Vash is initially skeptical, questioning Sunraku's abilities, but Sunraku explains that he won't be fighting Weatherman directly. Instead, he'll serve as support while his teammate, a defector from a group exploiting Weatherman, does the heavy lifting, and that their goal is to stop the group taking advantage of Weathermen for experience farming. Despite Vash's doubts, Sunraku insists that the fight isn't about personal gain, but about helping a worthy cause. Sunraku offers to undergo training for 2 weeks, asking Vash to help him become strong enough to take on the Death Defier. Vash, surprised by Sunraku's determination, agrees to help, sharing the backstory of Weatherman, a man cursed to an undead existence after losing his wife over a lie. Vash reveals that Weatherman is a tragic figure, and someone must defeat him to bring peace to his restless soul. Though Vash refuses to personally fight Weatherman, he gives Sunraku his blessing, especially with the encouragement of Emil. Vash takes Sunraku to a blacksmith's forge, where Sunraku is introduced to Bilak, another of Emil's siblings. Sunraku is surprised to learn that Bilak, along with the other rabbits, is part of Vash's family. Vash inspects Sunraku's weapons and decides to enhance them using a special crafting technique. Bilak is amazed that Vash will be wielding the hammer himself, as he hasn't forged weapons in years. Vash, a master craftsman, begins the process of forging, using his skill to take Sunraku's vorpal weapons into their true form. With each strike, magic circles appear, absorbing the power of previous battles and transforming the weapons. After a time, the weapons are complete, the Moonblade waxing and Moonblade waning. These twin blades, when used together, enhance each other's abilities. The waxing blade deals extra damage at the cost of the wielder's health, while the waning blade restores health under similar conditions. Sunraku is eager to try out his new weapons, but is disappointed to learn that his current stats aren't high enough to equip them. With a required level of 50, Sunraku annoyingly realizes he must level up a lot before he can use the blades. Later, Sunraku joins Pensilgan and Katso for a meeting in Third Rima, where they've been waiting for hours. He apologizes, explaining he was caught up in a unique scenario involving Weatherman. Katso is skeptical, but Pensilgan listens intently as Sunraku shares everything he's learned about Weatherman, and Katso wonders if the enemy is undead. Pensilgan, however, speculates that Weatherman may be a cyborg, though undead seems more likely. She then instructs them to meet again later that night after they've done some grinding in the Iron Ruins. She gives them a fishing rod and a map, although they have no idea what these will be used for. Before leaving, Pensilgan notices Emil on Sunraku's back and asks him about the disguise, which he declares is part of the latest fashion trend. Katso, oblivious, doesn't understand what's going on, but Pensilgan is impressed that Sunraku managed to fool someone and leaves. Sunraku and Katso, now ready to grind for experience, head to the Iron Ruins, with Sunraku excited to reach level 50 as soon as possible. Katso reveals that this is his first time in a party. It's also Sunraku's first time partying with another player. As they approach the entrance to the ruins, they're both excited by different look of the ruins. The group starts with a strategy meeting where Pensilgan explains that at the start of any battle with Weatherman, he activates a skill that sets the maximum level for all characters in the area to level 50, except for himself. Weatherman is a level 200, making player skill more important than level. This reveals that the group needs to reach level 50 before taking him on, as they are still fairly new to the game. Presently, Sunraku and Katso enter the Iron Ruins of Divinity in search of a hidden area for grinding. Sunraku suggests they take advantage of the glitches in the platforming, but Katso scolds him, reminding him to focus and avoid thinking like he's in a trash game. He reveals that he's currently level 25, while Sunraku mocks him for still being in the 20s. Emil teases Sunraku for being overly concerned about his own weakness. A large enemy called the Giant Suppression Dome suddenly almost crushes them, so Katso takes charge, using a spell that enhances his strength and vitality to defeat the enemy with a single punch. He explains that his monk build focuses on health and vitality, allowing him to fight without weapons. Katso says Sunraku is a glass cannon, focusing on strength and agility. Although Sunraku clarifies that his build is based on luck and agility, and Emil adds that Sunraku has a special skill called Vorpal Soul, though no one knows exactly what it means. Following the map given by Pensilgan, the group navigates through the ruins, appreciating the detailed work of whoever created the map. The final step involves jumping down a hole, worrying them, especially since Katso insists on leading, calling Sunraku a loser. Sunraku, fueled by the insult, follows him down, though he quickly forgets his anger when they reach the hidden area called Turlite Lake, where they are supposed to fish for a monster called the Lifestyle Lake Serpent. Despite doubts about the fishing rods, they decide to try it out and compete against each other. Sunraku's father had taught him how to fish, so he's confident, but Katso catches a giant serpent while Sunraku only reels in a salmon. Annoyed, Sunraku hurriedly takes out his new weapon, the Empire B twin blades. The serpent attacks, and while the group struggles to damage it, Sunraku uses his new weapon's unique attributes to deal corrosive damage. He explains how certain attacks have a corrosion effect that weakens the enemy over time. As they wear down the serpent, it focuses on Emil, but Katsuo jumps in to take the hit, saving her with his high vitality build. Finally, they combine their efforts, defeating the serpent and gaining a lot of experience. Katsuo levels up 4 times and gains new skills, while Sunraku realizes the potential of linking skills together, something he had missed due to skipping the starter town first year. Sunraku feels overwhelmed by all the game mechanics he's been missing, such as sub-jobs, guilds, and the skill garden, which can help link and create combo skills. Despite his frustrations, he decides to push on, keep grinding. Later, the group meets with Pensilgan, who is pleased with their progress. Katsuo is now level 40 and Sunraku level 42. Katsuo is impressed by Emil's strength, and Sunraku reveals that she is already level 56. Despite their progress, they realize that they're running out of time, and Pensilgan informs them that they must meet someone special, the unique NPC Setsuna of bygone days. This meeting must take place today since it's a full moon tonight, and that's the only time they can speak with her in order to proceed with their plan, to fight Weatherman. Meanwhile, Setsuna is seen singing by a tree. Sunraku and his friends journey through the prismatic forest, where they are tasked with finding a dark spot among the glowing moss. Upon discovering the hidden area, Pensilgan presses it to reveal a secret passage. Sunraku, frustrated at missing it earlier, is reassured by Pensilgan, who explains that finding these areas relies on luck and she had stumbled upon it by chance. As they proceed, the team arrives at a beautiful location filled with flowers. The sound of singing draws their attention to a transparent girl, Setsuna, whose Sunraku initially mistakes for a glitch. Pensilgan greets Setsuna, and Sunraku notes her out-of-place clothing, speculating that she might be from an ancient era. Sunraku attempts a grand introduction, but Pensilgan interrupts, introducing the team as Stooge and Stooge Do. Setsuna reveals a surprising connection to Sunraku. Mentioning his presence reminds her of someone from her past, and she thanks him for reviving her old memories. Despite not fully understanding, Sunraku listens as Setsuna explains the situation. Weatherman, her former lover, has been guarding her grave for years after a misunderstanding led to her death. Since her passing, Weatherman has used a spell to trap her grave behind an unbreakable barrier. However, during a new moon, a crack forms in the barrier, providing a chance to fight him. Katsuo bluntly suggests they simply enter through the crack and defeat Weatherman. Setsuna hopes they can finally put him to rest. The group prepares for the challenge, and Sunraku, Katsuo, and Pensilgan are surprised by her sincerity and vulnerability. Pensilgan admits she's invested in Setsuna's story, and the team realizes the importance of their fight. Sunraku and Katsuo, feeling motivated, prepare for the battle ahead. Pensilgan warns them about Weatherman's unique ability to force players down to level 50. Sunraku and his team, eager to train, intensify their training. Sunraku, having grinded for days, reaches level 51, while Katsuo is at level 46. To further enhance their chances, they look into skill linking at the skill garden in Rabatuza. Sunraku is determined to desire to improve his skills for the upcoming battle. Back at home, Rakuro's mother praises him for keeping up with his summer break agreement. His younger sister, Rumi, says she doesn't like their mother's pet bugs, and happily tells Rakuro about a model she likes named Tawa. Rakuro remembers how Toa felt connected to Setsuna's story and remarks that Toa and Setsuna have the same meaning. Rumi says she's modeling part-time as well before their father. Senji cheerily returns home with a massive fish he caught just before the meet-up. Rakuro inwardly explains that they have a rule in their house. For breakfast and dinner on Sundays, they have to eat and talk together as a family since, if they didn't they'd get so lost in their hobbies and would basically never see each other. After this, Rakuro heads back into SLF, where he will have the final battle with Weatherman. He thinks about the upcoming challenge, knowing that Weatherman's attack style is quick and lethal. Determined to prepare, Sunraku decides to practice in BERPs, since even though it's a deserted gang, he sees it as a perfect training ground. There he encounters a new player, Dragonfly, eager to learn. Despite the game's chaotic nature, Sunraku agrees to fight, taking the opportunity to teach Dragonfly about taking advantage of glitches in the game's mechanics. Sunraku observes Dragonfly's all-around build, which generates a lot of glitches, but assumes he's inexperienced with them. The battle begins, and Sunraku is shocked when Dragonfly unleashes a powerful move, Pile Bunker, a punch enhanced by a glitch that extends his arm like rubber. Although Dragonfly misses, Sunraku recognizes the potential of this move and explains how he used another glitch, Yo-Yo, to throw off Dragonfly's attack. Sunraku sees Dragonfly as a beginner, but acknowledges that he's learned to harness some basic bugs in the game. With so many glitches he can exploit, Sunraku decides to give Dragonfly a demonstration, eager to show him the depth of BERP's buggy combat system and help him improve his skills. Sunraku's battle with Dragonfly quickly attracts a crowd of onlookers who are surprised by his performance against the famous Sunraku. Despite the odds, Dragonfly is determined to win at least one round. In the first match, Sunraku easily dominates, using his unbeatable quick-draw fist-fighting style. Undeterred, Dragonfly requests a best-of-3 match, and they agree to use bugs to enhance their battle. Sunraku is unimpressed when Dragonfly repeats his earlier attack, but is shocked when Dragonfly successfully dodges his move. Dragonfly's timing with the yo-yo glitch impresses Sunraku, but he is still distracted, wanting a stronger opponent for his Weatherman preparation. Seizing the opportunity, Dragonfly lands a powerful attack, catching Sunraku off guard. Dragonfly uses a technique called Flying Smash, a powerful but slow move. Sunraku demonstrates his own powerful technique, the Pile Bunker, and easily counters Dragonfly's attack. In a surprising twist, Dragonfly uses a new glitch move, activating 2 flying smashes at once. Sunraku is stunned and decides to let Dragonfly's attack land, giving up the round. The crowd is shocked, but Dragonfly happily celebrates his victory. The group of game experts analyzing the battle believes Dragonfly has discovered a new bug move, which Sunraku congratulates him for, though it's still unofficial. Dragonfly is thrilled and has given the honor of naming the new move. Sunraku offers to show Dragonfly a bug move of his own in return. The next round starts, and Sunraku uses a move called Doppelganger, which splits him into 2 versions. Dragonfly is impressed, but Sunraku points out that his clone's AI behavior can make the move unpredictable. Dragonfly loses the next 2 rounds, feeling it was unfair, but accepts his defeat graciously. He thanks Sunraku for the experience and promises to think of a good name for his new move. Sunraku then mentions a creepy bug move Katsu found, and Dragonfly eagerly offers to let him try it. Meanwhile, Katsu is seen frustrated with Pencilgun, who demands that he keep training. Back in SLF, Sunraku, along with Emil, heads to Rabatuza to experiment with skill combinations. They arrive at a secret skill garden where they meet Elk, Emil's sister. Elk explains that she is skilled in combining high-level skills and will help Sunraku with his skill combinations. Sunraku, now level 51, is excited to clean up his skill list, but Elk warns him that combining skills at high levels gives stronger results, and Sunraku considers maxing out his skills before combining them, but decides to proceed with combining. After some thought, he pays for the skill combinations, and Elk gives him a powerful concoction, though it looks disgusting, with even a branch floating in it. Sunraku drinks the potion and instantly learns 6 new skills, along with others gained through leveling up, shocking him. Elk offers him even more exclusive items, including grimoires available only in Rabatuza. She gives him a discount for being Emil's friend, but Emil warns Sunraku about her sister's greed. Sunraku, eager to get some special items, agrees to spend his money. Despite realizing he's being overcharged, he buys a few items. Now broke, he prepares for the upcoming Weatherman fight. Later, the group gathers to discuss their plans, and Pencilgun reveals that her clan, Ashura Kai, is the only group aware of the conditions needed to face Weatherman. She explains that Ashura Kai's player-killing activities have led to a new game mechanic. PK killers can now earn bounties for taking down player killers. Pencil Gun proposes that they attack Ashura Kai's hideout to eliminate them as a threat, since those cowards are just a thorn in her side at this point. Thus, she says she wants to go squash them, shocking Sunraku and Katsu. 2 weeks later, Rai is sleeping in her room on the night Sunraku and his party is going to fight Weatherman. Meanwhile, a huge summer update gets added to Shangri-La Frontier. On the day of the highly anticipated summer update, players discover that all the resurrection items across multiple towns have been bought up by a mysterious individual concerning the several guild leaders who are worried about their boss. The culprit is revealed to be Pencilgun, who has secured all the items. Meanwhile, Yamamoto and Mia discuss the newly unlocked area and updated features. Mia is eager to explore the update, especially hoping for new weapons to enhance her killing spree. However, she is interrupted by a strange noise, which she initially mistakes for a monster. However, it's actually Rai, who is in a state of panic. She hurriedly remarks that she has been thinking of sending a message to Sunraku, inviting him to join her in the update, but her cowardice delayed her action, until finally, after thinking about it a lot, she sends the message through a messenger bird. Rai soon receives a message from her guild leader and sister Momo, who warns that the location of Ashura Kai's hideout has been leaked and tells Reed to meet up with her. Meanwhile, Sunraku and Emil share a drink, and Sunraku upsets her by calling her his old lady. As they prepare for saying goodbye to each other, Emil gives him an amulet of protection, a gift from her father. Back at his home, Sunraku's sister notices a sign on his door warning not to disturb, and inside his room, Sunraku prepares for the coming battle, saying he's ready to take on Ashura Kai at their hideout. Meanwhile, Ashura Kai's leader, Orsalot, grows impatient waiting for Pencilgun. As he prepares to leave, Siger Zero suddenly appears, effortlessly taking down one of his members. The legendary attack master's appearance causes shock within the clan, and Moma believes this will be the end of Ashura Kai. The other clans reveal their alliance to take Ashura Kai down, infuriating Orsalot, who questions who betrayed them, and when Siger Zero reveals its payback for all the bullying they've done to players, Orsalot decides to retreat. Sunraku is introduced to his new equipment, a sash that significantly boosts his vitality. Despite being lightweight, it works with his glass cannon fighting style. His energy is also boosted by an energy drink recommended by Katsu. Suddenly, Pencilgun arrives and informs them that the first part of their plan has gone smoothly, though Siger Zero seems upset. Sunraku deduces that her frustration comes from having to cancel plans with him due to the ongoing mission. Pencilgun isn't concerned about the Ashura Kai's threat, as she is confident she can handle them. As the Ashura Kai members try to escape, they realize the entrance to their hidden garden is sealed, and Orsalot soon realizes that his sister, Pencilgun, is the traitor. Inside the hidden garden, Pencilgun, believing she heard a loser's cries, prepares for the final stage of their mission. The team goes over their plan one last time, and Pencilgun explains that Satsuma, an important member, can only be seen under the light of the full moon. They proceed through a portal to a mysterious location where Satsuma's voice can be heard singing. As they enter, everyone's level is set to 50, signaling the start of the battle. Sunraku gets ready to face off against Weatherman, and despite its intimidating appearance, Sunraku is undeterred, determined to test his limits. The samurai attacks fiercely, and though Sunraku is able to dodge some blows, he is caught off guard by a powerful upward slash. He hurriedly tries to dodge Weatherman's attack, but remains focused, using his daggers to deflect an incoming strike. Pencilgun explains that Weatherman is a special condition monster that can't simply be defeated by reducing its health. Players need to meet specific conditions to win, such as surviving a set time or performing certain actions. She believes that surviving for 10 minutes might be the key to defeating Weatherman. Sunraku does his best to withstand Weatherman's attacks, with Pencilgun confident in his abilities. Katsu also observes the fight closely, analyzing Weatherman's moves. Despite the intense battle, Pencilgun believes that they're going to win. However, Weatherman unexpectedly lands a deadly blow on Sunraku, reducing his health to 0. Fortunately, Katsu hurriedly revives Sunraku with a resurrection item, and he wakes up again. Before the fight, Pencilgun gives her team valuable resurrection items, Rebirth Tier Jewels, which revive players to full health. if used within 10 seconds of their death, and Divine Life Salve, which revives players with half HP. She buys all 12 of the Rebirth tier jewels available and gives each of them 4, along with 5 Divine Life Salves. Penciled in reveals these are the maximum resurrection items allowed, totaling 27 lives to help defeat Weatherman. She devises a strategy called Zombie Tactics, where Sunraku leads the charge, and the team rotates, using items to revive anyone who is eliminated, aiming to outlast Weatherman and survive long enough to defeat him. Back in the battle, Sunraku is revived with full health, but Weatherman immediately targets Katsuo. As Katsuo struggles, Sunraku explains what he learned from his fight, admitting they cannot defeat Weatherman through damage alone. Pensilvan notes that Sunraku survived 2 minutes and 50 seconds, a good time for a first-timer. She also points out that Weatherman belongs in the elite 7th Colossi League like the Lakagon, and encourages Sunraku to make the most of the strategy. Sunraku inspects his weapons, surprised at how quickly they've worn down. He switches to his marsh daggers, prepared for the endurance-based battle ahead. He tags back in for Katsuo, but struggles to do any damage. Weatherman counters with a thunderclap attack that calls down deadly lightning. Sunraku narrowly avoids the strikes using his ability. However, Weatherman's next attack, Nimbus Fist, kills Sunraku again. Katsuo takes over, but he too is overpowered by Weatherman's strength. Pensilgan revives Sunraku again and remains calm as she prepares for the next phase of the fight. As Weatherman pauses, Pensilgan realizes Phase 1 is over and prepares for Phase 2. Weatherman summons his tactical support, a robot horse named Kirin. Katsuo, confused by its appearance, dodges its first attack and learns that the fight has changed. Surviving for another 10 minutes now requires dealing with both Weatherman and Kirin, which can combine to become an even greater threat. The only way to stop the fusion is to stay on Kirin long enough to trigger its buck-off animation. Katsuo hesitates but recalls skills from a mount fighting game, finding a ladder to mount the horse. Despite struggling, he manages to stay on. Meanwhile, Pensildan uses a powerful golden scale, sacrificing her high-value items to grant the group additional stat points. She offers 50 points to each player, and Sunraku feels the difference immediately, with his stamina and luck boosted. Sunraku uses his new abilities to turn the tide. He switches to a skill called Hand Fortune, which relies on luck instead of strength. With a lucky punch, he knocks Weatherman's sword out of his hands, preventing a potentially deadly attack. However, Weatherman quickly recovers, and Sunraku realizes that Weatherman is still dangerous even without his sword. As the fight continues, Katsuo is thrown around by Kirin, but remains determined to hold on. He takes damage, but survives long enough to complete Phase 2, during which Weatherman's armor cracks. However, Phase 3 instantly begins, and Weatherman releases a shockwave that instantly kills anyone caught in its blast. Sunraku, sensing the danger, prepares for the worst, but Pensildan has a plan. She reveals an important piece of information from Vash. Weatherman is not just a cyborg, but an undead monster. She quickly uses holy water to weaken Weatherman. The holy water, a rare potion from a saint, quickly takes effect, and Weatherman wildly screams. Pensilgan reacts with surprise as Weatherman's field attack animation doesn't trigger, realizing her holy water has cancelled it. While Sunraku is puzzled about the water's use, Pensilvan explains that it's from a saint and idol within the game world. Katsuo is confused about Weatherman's behavior, but is startled when Kirin unexpectedly transforms into a mech. Pensildan has never seen this form and fears it's a new feature for Phase 3. She tells Katsuo to keep running, while Sunraku prepares for a new strategy, believing that since Weatherman is crumbling, they might be able to damage him. Phase 3 requires them to survive until Weatherman fully deteriorates, and Sunraku decides to fight back. He orders Pensilgan to help Katsuo while he holds his ground, though this means he's on his own. As he dodges attacks, Sunraku grows frustrated by the fact that he only has to survive, wanting something more exciting. He thinks about how SLF blends gameplay with fiction, and realizes that now Weatherman may be vulnerable. He equips new armor and swaps weapons, determined to defeat the monster before it collapses. Using his helmet to block an attack, Sunraku strikes Weatherman, landing a critical hit, though it's ineffective. He unleashes a series of special skills, including the Moon's Reflection and Assassin Pierce, followed by Drill Pierce, which causes Weatherman to kneel. Sunraku doesn't do anything for a moment, mocking Weatherman and preparing for the battle. While Pencil Gun watches, she notes that Sunraku's status fuels his strength, but their focus must be on surviving Kirin's attacks. Katsuo, excited for a perfect score, attacks Kirin head-on, only to be overwhelmed. Pensilgan revives him, explaining that he can use an item called Evil Force, which boosts stats for 15 minutes but lowers his level by 1 every 30 seconds. Katsuo consumes the item without hesitation, despite the penalty. Pensilgan then uses her scale to further enhance their stats, giving them an edge for the remaining battle. Katsuo unleashes a powerful combo move, Spirit Fist, but even after staggering Kirin, Pensilgan finds its armor too tough to crack. She tries to break its knee, but is blasted in the face, losing an arm in the process. Despite the setback, they deduce that the vital parts are around Kirin's waist. Meanwhile, Sunraku continues fighting Weatherman, now more confident with his new Moonblades and special skills. He activates Climax Boost, which increases his stats based on the level gap with his opponent, and Hunger Wolf, which enhances his strength, agility, and vitality in exchange for stamina. His strategic use of these abilities helps him navigate the fight, even though Weatherman's speed and attack frequency increase. Weatherman now starts chaining attacks without a delay, making it harder for Sunraku to keep up. Sunraku dodges and parries as best as he can, but he slowly starts getting worn down. Weatherman's new Ash Blizzard attack overwhelms him with fire serpents, and Sunraku struggles to stay ahead. Weatherman suddenly activates Clear Sky Conquest, catching Sunraku off guard. Sunraku quickly tries to parry with his helmet, but Weatherman slices through him, leaving him critically wounded. Katsuo prepares to revive him, but Pensilgan stops him. Sunraku determinedly looks up and inwardly reminds Weatherman it told him that it's going to take more than that to defeat him. Emil is anxious because Sunraku hasn't come back home, meaning he's still in the middle of his fight. Meanwhile, the rebirth Tear falls on Sunraku, bringing him back to life. He declares that this is his ultimate technique, the self-revive, admitting it was a risky gamble, but he managed to time it just right. Unfortunately, his helmet is badly damaged, showing that Weatherman's Clear Sky Conquest attack has equipment-destroying effects. Weatherman declares that he shall not fall until Sunraku can surpass his ultimate. Weatherman launches another series of fierce attacks, including Thunderclap combined with Wind Slashes. Sunraku barely survives, but realizes that these attacks, along with the final Sky Clear, make up Weatherman's Clear Sky Conquest technique. Sunraku considers his strategy, noting that the final Sky Clear attack took about 30 seconds to activate the last time. He decides he can dodge most of Weatherman's attacks, like the fire and ash blizzards, as long as he has time to react. Sunraku suspects Weatherman's attack pattern may be random, so he plans to stay 3 meters away from him to conserve stamina and avoid unnecessary movements. Things get worse when Weatherman traps Sunraku's leg again. Sunraku uses his resurrection item, realizing this phase of the fight is the real challenge. Weatherman strikes with Sky Clear, killing him instantly. This attack feels different. There's no way to dodge or block it, and it's an automatic kill once Sunraku's legs are rooted. His only option is to use his self-revive, but he mutters that he can't keep doing this. With only 5 Divine Lifesavers left, he has less than 3 minutes before Weatherman's next Sky Clear attack. Sunraku quickly thinks of a plan to defeat Weatherman's Sky Clear. He remarks that he can parry the attack, but the timing must be perfect, and a single mistake could destroy his weapon. He checks his cooldown and prepares for the final moment, knowing he has to time everything perfectly. Meanwhile, back with the others, Katsuo and Pensilgan are working to find Kirin's weak spot. They're engaged in a fight with a robot, and Pensilgan takes a drastic risk by sacrificing herself to repair her weapon. She ends her own life to come back with a new arm, allowing her to keep fighting. Together, they work to destabilize the robot, with Katsuo using powerful buffs to wield 2 whips. They discover the robot's weak spot, its waist, and begin to focus their attacks there. After some effort, they break through the armor, causing the robot to enter berserk mode. The duo continues fighting to prevent the robot from harming Sunraku. Katsuo is determined to defeat the giant, but Pencilden's weapons are nearly destroyed, and they have to act quickly. Pencilden uses a technique called Shadow Edge to freeze the robot for a brief moment, allowing her to make a powerful attack. Despite being hit by a missile, Pencilden survives and strikes Kirin with her spear, hitting her target perfectly. Katsuo follows up with his Spirit Fist, combining his red, blue, and yellow punches to send her spirit through Kirin. The strike is powerful, but Kirin falls on top of Katsuo. Pencilden rushes to check on him and is relieved to find him unharmed, after which the two wearily celebrate their victory. Sunraku, meanwhile, revives himself again with his last resurrection item, saying he is now ready for the final battle. With Weatherman preparing to use his Clear Sky Conquest again, Sunraku has only 30 seconds to prepare. His helmet is destroyed, so he switches back to his bird mask and dodges Weatherman's attacks. And with only 2 seconds left before the next sky clear, he uses his moon blades for the first time. The twin blades have a special effect. The lower his stats compared to his opponent, the higher his chance for critical hits. With his climax boost and Hunger Wolf abilities active, Sunraku is confident he can block Weatherman's attack. However, a notification appears saying that climax boost can't be activated because Sunraku's HP isn't low enough. Sunraku realizes his mistake. He didn't time his HP properly. Without climax boost, he can't match Weatherman's attack speed, seems doomed. In a last-ditch effort, he desperately stabs himself to trigger a special effect. This activates a luck-based status that allows him to survive with 1 HP after self-inflicted damage, which grants him access to both his Hunger Wolf and Climax Boost abilities. Fueled by intense power, Sunraku faces Weatherman's Sky Clear attack. He perfectly times a counterattack, Crescent Vorpal, and the two attacks collide in a powerful explosion. Sunraku's strength is enough to dislodge Weatherman's weapon and shatter his armor. Pencilden and Katsuo watch in amazement as Weatherman's blade slowly falls. Sunraku declares that he was strong, but he has seen enough of his attacks for a lifetime and his blade won't ever reach him again because the ultimate strike has been solved. Weatherman's blade shatters and a petal falls into Weatherman's hand as he admits that was brilliant, remarking that Sunraku has broken through his ultimate strike. He slowly forms a fist around the petal and looks up. Weatherman calmly retrieves his sword, and Sunraku braces himself, unsure if the fight is truly over. As Weatherman approaches, the group wonders if the battle is still going on, but Pencilden can tell that he has reached his limit. Surprisingly, Weatherman walks past Sunraku and heads towards Setsuna's grave. His body begins to break down as he declares that it's time to sleep, mentioning he will soon be reunited with Setsuna. His body crumbles, leaving only his sword behind, and the group watches in disbelief, unsure if the fight is truly finished. However, Pencilden confirms that the battle conditions haven't been fully met yet. As the cherry tree withers and the area around them starts returning to normal. To the shock of the group, Setsuna suddenly appears before them, thanking them for putting Weatherman to rest. She explains that the wish for her old self has finally been fulfilled. The group is confused, wondering if Setsuna is the real one. She reveals that she is merely a remnant of the real Setsuna, who wished for Weatherman's freedom after her death. This remnant, created from her feelings, is meant to disappear once her role is completed. Setsuna reassures the group that this was always destined to happen, and calls them pioneers. She suggests that to learn the truth of the world, they must seek out Bahamut. Sunraku explains that Bahamut is commonly thought of as a large fish, though Katsuo hurriedly says he knows what a Bahamut is. He's just unsure of what it is in context of the game. Pencilden insists that there is no such monster in SLF and presses for more answers. However, Setsuna believes that this is something they must discover on their own. She speaks one final time as herself, bidding farewell to Pencilden. She slowly smiles and thanks Pencilden for always coming to meet her, saying she loves her. Surprised, Pencilden happily smiles and says she loves her too. Though she denies it, the others tease her, noticing that she's started to cry, and Sunraku says he never knew she had a tears function built in, so Pencilden annoyingly declares that she will murder them. Just then, a message announces that they have cleared the unique scenario, marking their first victory against a unique monster since Shangri-La Frontier was created. The group prepares for a loot review, but an announcement to all players interrupts them. It declares the defeat of Weatherman the Tomb Guard and reveals the names of the players responsible: Pencilden, Katso, and Sunraku. The announcement also reveals that the game's world story has officially progressed with this victory. At the game's headquarters, it's noted that the world story's progress has only increased from 11% to 12%. Meanwhile, in a library in Shangri-La Frontier, a group of scholars is eager to learn more about the world story, as they've never encountered the term before. They speculate that it's separate from the regular game story, which involves NPCs and exploration, and that the defeat of a unique monster means a major shift in the game's world. Their research leads them to Weatherman, confirming his existence and the presence of 5 unique monsters, with only 2 remaining. They now plan to contact the players who defeated Weatherman. The Schwartz clan, led by Ree's sister Siger 100, is also unhappy about losing their status as the first clan to defeat a unique monster. They are frustrated that Pencilden used them as a distraction to go after the unique monster. Momo, Siger 100 is especially angry, but they are more intrigued by Sunraku, a player known for defeating Lycagon. Despite being a beginner, Sunraku's defeat of Weatherman has caught their attention, and they are determined to find him. Back with the heroes, they leave the cave to find Orcelot waiting for them. The group mocks him, calling him Orcelot the Failhard. Orcelot accuses Pencilden of leaking information and preparing to attack. He plans to eliminate the group and take their loot, but they activate an anti-PK distress signal, summoning Siger Zero, who gives Orcelot one last chance to retreat. Orcelot refuses, and in a mere 50 seconds, the Ashura Kai are defeated. Orcelot, furious, attempts to salvage his plans but is swiftly dealt with by Pencilden. The group receives all the loot the Ashura Kai had been carrying, revealing they were trying to escape with it. Sunraku thanks Siger Zero for her help, and she congratulates them on their victory. Sunraku recalls the earlier announcement, realizing the public recognition will make it harder for him to remain anonymous. He also becomes concerned about how to handle Siger Zero, unsure if he can simply send her away. However, Pencilden surprises everyone by asking Siger Zero to kill her. She offers all her possessions as payment, knowing that her death as a player killer would activate a massive penalty. Despite this, Pencilden is willing to take the risk as she's tired of being a player killer and wants to start fresh. Still holding her status, Pencilden challenges Siger Zero to a fight. Siger Zero, wielding the legendary Attack Master Sword and its reversal skill, accepts the challenge. The two engage in an intense battle, with both using powerful buffs. After Pencilden's first attack is blocked, Siger Zero strikes her, but Pencilden fights back, determined to go all out before Siger Zero suddenly unleashes a gigantic Chaos Void attack. Sunraku and Katso are left speechless as Siger Zero easily defeats Pencilden, watching as the loot scattered around them is collected. Siger Zero picks up the items, and they awkwardly watch as Pencilden was the one who usually kept things light. Sunraku, not knowing what to say, is nudged by Katso to speak up, but Sunraku reminds him that Siger Zero basically forced them into being friends. Katso, trying to lighten the mood, tries to start a conversation, but Siger Zero asks Sunraku about his relationship with Pencilden. Sunraku simply says they are just gaming buddies. When the friendship warp timer runs out, Sunraku says goodbye, and Siger Zero offers to go on an adventure with him. But it's too late, and she disappears. Katso jokingly suggests they try a dating simulator to work on their social skills, but Sunraku quickly dismisses the idea, still traumatized from a previous experience. The last item left is Pencilden's sword, which Sunraku decides to keep, even though it looks creepy. After that, they both wearily head back to Thirdrima, where Sunraku accidentally scares Emil, who rushes to hug him, overjoyed that he's back safe. She tearfully thanks him for returning her necklace, believing it helped him win the fight. Sunraku thanks her and reassures her, returning her hug. Meanwhile, at Utopia's headquarters, Sakai, the PR head, is scrambling to deal with the unexpected defeat of Weatherman. The company had planned for Tarnid to be defeated first, and now the game's timeline is off. Sakai, already in pain from a stomach ache and stressed by the situation, tries to keep calm. Upstairs, Amachi, the executive producer, is furious, not only because Weatherman was defeated earlier than expected, but also because it was done without any glitches, which was unexpected. She and Sukuri, the game's founder, start arguing over whether nerfing Weatherman was the right call. Amachi believes it was necessary for game balance, while Sukuri thinks it weakened the game's story. Sakai, still in pain, tries to stop the argument, but only makes it worse. Back home, Sunraku gets some much-needed sleep, while Rai, unable to sleep, starts thinking of ways to get closer to him in the game, hoping it might help their relationship in real life. The next morning, Sunraku is eager to see what rewards he's earned from his hard work and heads back into the game. Emil, still crying, tells him Vash wants to see him, and Sunraku says he won because of his experience with trash games that taught him how to deal with tough situations. Vash says he's satisfied with Weatherman's defeat and suggests something important might be coming next. Sunraku is unsure but listens as Vash gives him a new task, sending him on a quest to fetch a few items. Although the task doesn't seem important, Sunraku agrees, hoping it leads to something bigger. Vash reveals that the items are located in the Lightless Barrens, a place not shown on the map. Sunraku, unsure where to find it, decides to ask Pete for help. As he checks his stats, Sunraku is surprised to see his level has increased to 78, thanks to the Weatherman battle. This also gives him new and improved skills. Excited about his progress, he turns his attention to the loot he received from the fight. He sees that the items include the Tomb of Truth, a book about Weatherman's backstory, and the Clear Sky Skill Book, which teaches sword techniques from a legendary sword master of the Divinity era. Sunraku is excited about the potential of learning these powerful skills, although he needs special equipment to use them. The third item is the Inventory Key, a bracelet that grants access to an infinite storage space, which Sunraku can enter by spending MP. After trying it on, he's amazed to find that the storage is already filled with high-level equipment, far more than he ever expected. Meanwhile, Pencildan thinks about Setsuna, remembering her as more than just a copy. She recalls Setsuna's dying wish for them to search for Bahamut, to uncover the truth about their world. Initially planning to quit SLF after defeating Weatherman, Pencilgun changes her mind and decides to stay in the game. She's determined to find Bahamut and force it to reveal its secrets. Meanwhile, Lakagon is menacingly sitting in an empty field. Katsu's room is filled with VR headsets, along with an impressive collection of gaming awards. He originally started playing Shangri-La Frontier just to pass time between his professional gaming commitments, but now he can't stand the idea of his friends playing without him. However, he has an important tournament coming up, which prevents him from joining them. Suddenly, Sunraku messages him about an inventory key he got from their recent battle. Katsu, not wanting his friends to get ahead, decides to drop everything and enter SLF. In the game, Katsu meets up with his friends and Sunraku excitedly talks about the cool items in his inventory. Katsu realizes that the powerful armor could make Sunraku overpowered. However, Pencilgun examines the items and explains that the armor won't work without a special power source called a non-standard ether reactor. She's never heard of it, and without it, Sunraku can't use the armor. Sunraku is crushed, but Katsu surprises everyone by revealing he actually has a non-standard ether reactor. He explains that he got it from his loot after fighting Kirin. Though it's broken, blacksmiths he consulted couldn't fix it. Pencilgun identifies it as a divinity relic, suggesting they need a special blacksmith or item to repair it. Sunraku shocks everyone again by saying he might know someone who can fix it, but it involves a unique scenario, and he isn't sure if the others can join him. Katsu agrees to lend Sunraku the reactor, but only if he shares the details of the unique scenario he unlocked. Pencilgun scolds Katsu for making such a deal, but Katsu argues that in SLF, players are protective of their unique scenario information, especially if they have exclusive access. Sunraku reluctantly agrees to share what happened and explains that, at level 20 or lower, he encountered Likagon the Night Slayer, lasted 5 minutes without taking damage, and landed over 200 critical hits with a Vorpal weapon. His friends are frustrated because they can't simply replicate his actions, but Sunraku insists he's being honest. Katsuo finally agrees to let Sunraku borrow the reactor, and Pensilgan asks for her scale back. Pensilgan explains that she gave Sunraku the scale after their battle with Weatherman. The scale is one of the highest tier items in the game, and players can use it to boost their stats by investing enough money. To protect it from being seized due to the player killer penalty, Pensilgun used a trick called laundering. This prevents items from being taken when a player is killed by hiding them in storage or transferring ownership. Pensilgun borrowed the scale from the Golden Scales organization to keep it safe. When she retrieved it, the scale revealed 2 items from their battle: the Tomb of Truth and a flower pin, after she sacrificed 40 of her levels. Pensilgan explains that she used her main weapon as guarantee to rent the scale, transferring its ownership to the organization. Despite this, she's not worried about the PK penalty, as hunting unique monsters is profitable. Pensilgan then suggests they'd form a clan, and after a game of rock, paper, scissors, they decide on the name Wolfgang. As the clan leader, Pensilgan's first task is to choose their emblem, but the group leaves that to her. Just then, a member of the library walks in, looking for the trio that defeated Weatherman. They quickly escape, pretending not to know him. After the meeting, Katsuo plans to level up after losing so many levels during the fight. Pensilgan heads to trade the scale back, and Sunraku sets out to handle the reactor. The library kid, thinking he's found Sunraku, chases after Sunraku, but Sunraku manages to get away and asks Amol to open the gate. She scolds him for being late, but does as he asks, and Sunraku remembers he was supposed to return the sword to Pensilgan, but decides to do it later. At Rabatuza, Sunraku is disappointed to find that Vash isn't there, and Emil hasn't seen him since their last talk. Sunraku tries using skill fusion, but is still broke. He hopes Vash can fix the reactor, but when Vash is absent, he decides to ask Bilak for help. However, Bilak can't assist because only an ancient craftsman can repair divinity items. Sunraku comes up with an idea. Since there are no ancient craftsmen available, he'll help Bilak level up into one. Bilak is initially unsure, but is motivated by Sunraku's words and agrees to play along, and they excitedly start their plan to cultivate Bilak. Sunraku realizes that turning Bilak into an ancient craftsman is more difficult than he expected, so Bilak explains that 2 things are needed: a legacy weapon and a magic operations unit. These items are rare and hard to find, but Sunraku figures the legacy weapon must be from the divinity era. He remembers having some divinity-related items in his inventory and teleports to grab one. When he returns, he surprises Bilak with a legacy weapon, but she doubts it. Sunraku explains he got it by defeating Weatherman, though he assumes it needs to be a working weapon. Bilak clarifies that the legacy weapon is important because it lets her learn the divinity techniques used to craft such weapons, and admits while a working weapon would be better, the one he brought will work for now. Bilak becomes excited, saying she just needs to break the weapon into pieces, but Sunraku stops her, explaining that he needs to check with his friends before destroying it. The weapon came from his inventory, and both Katsuo and Pensilvan had agreed that the items there would be shared among them. Bilak agrees to wait, but reminds Sunraku that he also needs to find the magic operations unit. She recalls that Vash once told her it could be found in the ruins of past glories, a place near the 11th city in the game. Sunraku realizes that this location is also close to the Lightless Barrens, which Vash mentioned as important for unlocking a bonus secret scenario. Bilak and Sunraku prepare for the journey, but realizes Bilak can't transform into a human, so she decides to disguise herself as a fur coat, while Emil becomes a scarf, and they move forward. Before setting off, Sunraku sets his respawn point in Rabatuza. The group then heads toward the Canyon of Ancient Souls, a dangerous area where a war had occurred long ago. The war ended when monsters arrived and turned the area into a nesting ground for undead creatures. Sunraku buys holy water to protect them from the miasma, which can reduce stats with a hex status effect. Despite its high cost, Bilak and Emil are surprised to learn that Sunraku only bought enough to protect their group. When they reach the canyon, Sunraku explains that the clean air around him is due to a mark Lekadon placed on him. This mark cancels out any weaker spells or curses, including the miasma. Before he can explain more, a giant wyvern zombie appears, but it looks at Sunraku's scars and quickly runs away. Sunraku explains that the mark causes weaker monsters to avoid him. Bilak thinks the monsters are cowardly, but Sunraku realizes his power has grown so much that the canyon now feels like a simple walk. Bilak wonders if she can fight, but before they can talk more, a headless monster, a Dullahan general, appears, and it doesn't run from Sunraku after seeing his scar. Sunraku activates his ignition skill and prepares to fight it. The monster attacks first, but Sunraku dodges its strike and warns Emil to stay safe. As they fight, Sunraku notices that the Dullahan general is stronger than he expected. Though he doesn't feel threatened, he uses his Vorpal Blade technique to knock the monster off its horse, allowing Bilak to strike with her Megaton swing. The monster is sent flying, and Sunraku combines his skills to go airborne and lands a lucky hit with his Hand of Fortune, sending the Dullahan general crashing to the ground. Emil uses a spell to send the monster flying into Bilak's hammer, causing a huge impact. Sunraku receives the general's decapitator as a reward, and while the weapon is rusty and only works for headshots, Bilak sees its potential. She wants to restore it, and Sunraku agrees, remembering that she's a skilled blacksmith. He checks her stats and is surprised to see she's at level 98, much higher than his own. Seeing his saddened expression, Bilak reassures him by explaining that she gained experience from smithing, while he got his from fighting. The group continues their journey, and Sunraku remarks that the map here seems way simpler than the other areas he's been to, so Emil says nevertheless, they just need to proceed in a straight line. As they continue their journey, Sunraku says this area has been real easy, so Bilak says she's betting the miasma, and the undead would normally be a huge pain, so Emil remarks that Sunraku's mark clears up the miasma and chases the monsters away, so it's truly a walk in the park. On that note, Sunraku annoyingly tells them to walk on their own instead of sitting on his shoulders, so they say walking is far too troublesome, and clinging to him lets them conserve holy water, so he should just deal with it. Sunraku sees that there's something going on above the mist and wonders if climbing over obstacles would make the trip faster, so Bilak says it might work if he's feeling suicidal, but she doesn't want to do that. Emil tells Sunraku that atop the cliffs of the Canyon of Ancient Souls lurk terrifying monsters known as crystal scorpions. These scorpions attack in swarms, so anyone who comes across one is likely to die. Just then, Sunraku thinks he spots something, and the bunnies fear it could be a scorpion. If one scorpion is nearby, it means the others are around, so Emil says they must move quickly. Sunraku briefly considers fighting a scorpion later, but the bunnies think it's a dangerous idea. Soon they find a large black dome, and Sunraku assumes the area boss is inside. Without hesitation, he enters the dark dome. Inside, Emil panics, but they soon discover the boss, the Humming Lich, a skeleton monster that seems to cast curses. Sunraku decides to attack first to prevent it from cursing them, but when he strikes, his blade passes right through the creature. He shockingly realizes the Lich doesn't have a hitbox, and Bilak explains that they need a weapon with a holy attribute to deal damage to it. Sunraku points out that he doesn't have such a weapon, and they are soon covered in the Lich's miasma. The miasma is stronger than usual because of the Lich's deathly energy. Fortunately, Sunraku's mark clears the area, preventing any more harm. However, the fight is stuck in a stalemate, so Bilak decides to take charge and asks Sunraku to buy her some time. Sunraku agrees and uses Emil as a rabbit gun to help in the fight, though Emil protests. After a magic attack from Emil, Bilak works quickly to turn the rusty sword they found earlier into a weapon capable of hurting the Lich. With no forge available, she polishes it using holy water and explains that the sword is now able to harm the Lich, but is fragile, capable of only 8 more strikes before breaking. hoping they can finish the fight soon. As the Lich becomes angrier, it grows several heads, each holding a different weapon. Sunraku does his best to dodge the attacks. It's getting harder. He realizes that the Lich and its clones share a single health pool, so when one clone is injured, the Lich also takes damage. With this knowledge, Sunraku forms a plan to target the original Lich. The bunnies think it's risky, but Sunraku convinces them. With Bilak's help, Sunraku launches her into the air and activates his overheat buff, which boosts his stats for 5 minutes. He combines this with Nitro Gain, which increases his strength and agility at the cost of some of his HP, leaving him with just 4 health points but ready to fight. Sunraku uses his buffs to take down the Lich clones, each with a single strike. With 5 clones remaining, Sunraku knows he needs to finish the fight before his overheat buff expires. Embol clears a path, allowing Sunraku to defeat the axe-wielding clone. As his buffs begin to run out, Sunraku realizes he has to end the fight quickly. Bilak is impressed by his abilities, understanding now how he was able to defeat Weatherman. Trusting his plan, she watches as Sunraku kills the last clones. With only the main Lich left, Sunraku tosses Emil into the air again, and she uses a magic attack to distract the Lich. This gives Sunraku the opportunity to stab the Lich with his sword. The sword holds up better than expected, and Bilak helps him push it through the Lich's body with her hammer. With the Lich defeated, the group celebrates, though the moment is almost ruined when Emil nearly injures Sunraku with a stray attack. Bilak thinks the sword can still be fixed, but they need to hurry to Abehold City. Sunraku checks the loot but finds mostly useless items, so they proceed, and the fog lifts after the boss is defeated. In the city, Sunraku registers it as a landmark, allowing him to use Emil's gates to travel between Rabbituza and Abehold. Bilak wants to return to Rabbituza to fix the sword, so Sunraku agrees to split up and rest. He sends Emil with Bilak while he explores the city. Although Bilak doesn't fully believe his reason, Sunraku convinces her by promising her carrots. As they part ways, Emil warns him not to do anything reckless, hearing which Sunraku slowly chuckles and declares that human nature says when someone says, "Don't do that," you totally do it. He recalls how that's the story of Pandora's box too. Zeus gave Pandora that box knowing she was going to open it. Even when we know it's going to unleash all the world's misfortunes, we just have to open it. That's what it means to be human. He arrives at the Canyon Souls and gets ready to start climbing, telling the crystal scorpions to wait for him. Sunraku maxes out his jumping ability, excited to find the crystal scorpions and take on level 100 monsters. The bunnies are worried about his safety, but Sunraku argues that the fun of gaming is taking risks. When he reaches the top of a cliff, he notices that the view is completely different from below and spots a crystal scorpion. He's impressed that it can camouflage and prepares to fight. As the scorpion attacks, Sunraku dodges and compares it to a speeding train. The scorpion uses the crystals around them to corner him. Although overpowered, Sunraku decides to just collect rare materials for now, not expecting to defeat it in his current state. However, more scorpions show up, and Sunraku remembers that these creatures attack in swarms. Realizing he's surrounded, he admits that he's done for. Back in Rabbituza, Emil is worried about Sunraku and is relieved when he returns. Sunraku is upset about how many scorpions there were. He asks Emil to open a gate back to Abehold, and though she scolds him for fighting the scorpions, Sunraku offers her a carrot to make up for it. After she opens a gate, Sunraku is determined to try again and make the most of the situation. He sneaks off to find a large black crystal, hoping it will give him rare items. However, when he strikes another crystal, it causes a loud noise, and the scorpions attack again. He uses various skills to jump into the air, but is quickly defeated, respawning back in Rabbituza. Emil points out how quickly he lost, but Sunraku insists that surviving against them is impossible because of their numbers and not having any space. Sunraku explains that he managed to grab a piece of a crystal called the lapis, which has dense magic. Though he doesn't know its use, he's sure it's valuable. After taking a break to think about it, he realizes that the scorpion's AI is flawed since they charge recklessly and sometimes bump into each other. He wonders if he can loot parts of their bodies and asks Amol to open another gate. Despite her warning that he'll just die again, he laughs it off, saying that experts like him don't fear death. He comes up with a plan to make the dangerous minefield a bit easier by using his storage to safely collect items. Returning to the crystal area, he taunts the scorpions and uses his jumping ability to dodge them while collecting carapace bits. He explains that Inventoria is an overpowered storage system that lets him store as many materials as he wants without the usual weight penalties. He keeps using this strategy to collect materials from the level 100 scorpions, and enjoys coming up with creative solutions in the game. Running low on mana, he makes one final run, but realizes he hasn't collected a stinger, the rarest part of the scorpions. Determined to get one, he decides to face the swarm directly and tear off a stinger, even though he knows it's impossible with his current strength. Sunraku's attacks fail to break off the stinger, and more scorpions appear. He realizes he'll need the swarm's help to break it off and hopes for a lucky outcome. After dodging an attack, he times it perfectly, using Inventoria just as the scorpions hit the stinger. He quickly returns and strikes the cracked stinger with all his might, finally breaking it off. However, as he reaches for it, the stinger slips away, and Sunraku falls into the pit of scorpions, feeling frustrated and defeated. Back in Rabbituza, Amol is concerned as Sunraku depressingly lies on the bed. He tells himself it's still possible to get the stinger, but he loses control and curses the goddess of RNG in this game. Amol sees that he's gotten rather unhinged before Sunraku slowly gets up and declares that there's only one way to bounce back from this, by bragging to Bilak about the materials he collected and bathing in her praise, saying he just knows she's going to appreciate how valuable these materials are. He excitedly says time is money and tells Amol they should get going, announcing that nothing beats the moment when you brag to someone about your accomplishments. Amol mutters that that's some perverse thinking, but Sunraku cheerily says he takes that as a compliment. Bilak is shocked by the things Sunraku collected and keeps gushing about them before he snaps her out of it, and asks what she can make out of these. She admits she can make some strong weapons from some of these parts, but the gems like these are better off being made into accessories, which means it's less of a job for a smith like her and more a job for a jeweler. Sunraku hurriedly asks if there's any jewelers here, hoping it's not another one of Amol's sisters. However, Bilak reveals that there isn't any jeweler here. Frustrated, Sunraku angrily questions if all the precious stuff he collected is going to go to waste then, but Bilak tells him to let her finish and reveals that she has a connection that can make it happen. She admits she really hates asking that guy for help, but her pride as a blacksmith and a craftsman refuses to allow her to let these things be wasted. She calls for someone seeing, which Sunraku wonders if that person is in the next room. However, a prideful-looking cat instantly appears and introduces himself as Aramis. Bialike tells him about everything Sunraku has done and says she wants him to get his jeweler friend to make some accessories out of these jewels. Surprised, Aramis agrees and takes the gems from Bilak before slowly kissing her hand. Annoyed, she quickly tries to beat him up with her hammer, but Aramis disappears before she can do that. She and Amol tell Sunraku that Aramis is from Katsaria, the land of the Kate Siths, and is much stronger than he looks. Sunraku says he wants to ask more questions, but he's feeling a bit tired, so he's going to return after taking a short nap, after which they can seriously start searching for the Magic Operations Unit. Rakuro wearily takes off his headset and sees that he's received emails from Katso and Pensilgan, both saying they want to meet up and discuss something important. He decides to not reply for now and goes to sleep. Later, Rakuro logs into SLF and realizes he didn't answer their emails, but he decides to ignore them for now, since it's probably nothing important. He and Amol go to see Bilak and see her beating up Aramis, who, after being freed, says he wants to accompany them on their journey. Rakuro thinks about it, since having another character above level 90 would help, so Bilak tells him that this is because Sunraku is a student of Vash and has defeated the Colossi, asking if he still doesn't understand how important he's become. On top of that, some races might get attracted to him more quickly since he's got Lycagon's marks all over his body. She adds that his existence might even lead to a war and tells him to come to grips with what he's done or things could get messy real quick. In Avehold, Emil transforms into her human form, and Sunraku worryingly makes his way through town with Bilak and Aramis squabbling under his large robe. He hopes people don't approach him, so Emil says there's no need to be concerned about that since everyone's giving him a wide berth anyway. However, a girl suddenly stops in her tracks and stares at them before slowly starting to approach them. Alarmed, Sunraku hurriedly asks what she wants and if it's something related to his robe. However, the girl shockingly starts speaking in a deep, male voice and deduces that he is one of the 3 players who killed Weatherman. She remarks that if he is truly Sunraku, then she would like to ask for a moment of his time. Confused, Sunraku inwardly questions why she has a magical girl avatar with the voice of an old man and wonders if that's the gimmick, hoping this is some sort of gag. However, the girl suddenly realizes she failed to introduce herself and reveals that she is the leader of the Ganglor clan, the library, and that they call her the Professor. She believes they are rather well known in SLF and asks Sunraku if he's heard of them, saying they spend their days learning more about the world and lore of Shangri-La Frontier. Sunraku remembers learning about them when he was researching about the game and believes this professor might have some valuable information he needs. However, he remarks that he needs to get to his destination quickly, and he can't let information about Emil and the others get out too. The professor explains that he has never come across a world as detailed as SLF, but the only mystery to them were the 7 Colossi, so he was truly astonished when someone was able to finally beat Weatherman, the tomb guard. Thus, he asks Sunraku if he wants to join him in exploring the truth of this world.